They say ignorance is bliss, but as a lifelong journalist, I really couldn't disagree more. If there's something shocking to know, I want to know about it, and I want you to know about it too. I'm Peggy Bunker, and I can't wait for you to know it all. This season's focus, do we even know what we're eating? The truth about factory farming. Hello, everyone. So glad that you're here with us today for the first episode of Know It All. We're very excited to have you. I'm Peggy Bunker, and I have such a wonderful guest to kick this off with. This is one of my favorite people out there, wonderful animal activist, Renee King-Sonnen. She is a former stew-eating, steak-loving rancher, actually. Fell in love with a hot Texas cowboy, moved to his ranch, and then discovered she had a lot of very complicated feelings about that. She got attached to the animals. She started seeing how mothers and babies were separated. She was not having it. And her story is incredible. The way she personally laid down the line with her husband, both of them changed their lifestyles completely. And now she's one of the most famous animal advocates out there. So thrilled to have her on the podcast today. Please meet Renee King-Sonnen. Renee King-Sonnen, we are so happy to have you on the podcast here, Know It All. I have loved getting to know you via listening to your interviews and your background. You have one of the most remarkable histories I think I've come across so far, and I want to hear about how you went from being a cattle rancher to a vegan, protecting these cows that used to be your bread and butter. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Peggy. I'm so excited to be here. And a lot of people ask me this question, and so it's always warms my heart anytime I get to tell the story of a cattle ranch. We're actually the first documented beef cattle ranch vegan conversion in history. If anybody else can come to the table and say they were first, I'm glad to hear about it. But so far, we're the first. So we had no blueprint. We had no uh, body to talk to except for a man named Howard Lyman that did transition out of cattle ranching when he had a factory farm, but he didn't turn into a sanctuary. But he is very well known. We can talk about him later if you want. But it's-
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I've also talked a lot to like Bill Nyman, and I know Julie up in and Lisa too up in Marin County here in California. They had a ranch as well, but then went to like still producing meat products, but trying to treat the animals a bit better. Of course, like opposite of factory farming. But I've never heard of ranchers that just full out stopped and did the opposite for their animals. And I'm curious though, that comes being the first of anything always comes with a good dose of isolation or judgment or pushback. And I can imagine, especially being the wife of the rancher, who he was doing this when you met him, right?
yes, the second
Eh,
time.
the second time. So when you first started dating him or getting to know, it didn't bother you that he was a cattle rancher.
Well, the first time I dated Tommy was in the 90s. We've been married twice, Tommy and I. So we divorced the first time. It's no mistake. I've struggled with alcohol and drug addiction in my past, and I'm very candid about it in the book coming out next year. But yeah, it's like the first time we divorced, it was due to that. And the second time we married in 2010, I moved in with him in 2009. He had the cattle ranch, and he had picked up the baton of his forefathers. His forefathers were in cattle ranching, in the in the 1800s. I think actually it was the late 1800s. They had slaughterhouses. They had, they moved cattle from San Antonio to Houston and Alvin. Just like the old cowboy days. My husband has his great grandpa's spurs and the
Oh my
brands,
gosh.
the SON brands. And so he was very proud of his heritage. So Tommy picked up the baton, bought some land in Angleton, Texas, hoping that it would be an asset to his retirement portfolio. With
Ah,
no idea I was going to come in, pull the rug out, go vegan, and turn his life upside down.
upside down. Well, I have to say, especially being married twice, and I know I've heard you and read about how you said, watching the trailers go down, I'll stand in front of it, I'll divorce you again, this will end our marriage if this didn't turn around. How has your marriage changed? How long have you been married now the second time?
The second time we've been married 10 years. No,
10
I'm sorry,
years.
15 years. 15 years.
15 years. And How
Been
have you
vegan 10 years. We've both been vegan 10 years.
vegan 10 years and together that long, how has doing this together and getting on the same page together I mean, what a hard I can't imagine. That is such a difficult thing. Staying on the same page, being married is hard anyway, but how has it changed the 2 of you in your relationship?
Oh my gosh. When I first married Tommy, I had no idea what I was getting into with the cattle ranch. I didn't want to help him with the cattle ranch. I was producing a Texas Woman Country Music Showcase at the time. I was doing a lot of performing, and producing music shows. I was also a realtor and had no desire to close gates, open gates, bale hay, fix fences. I kept complaining all the time that the rocks and the dirt when, my heels would go into the dirt
Yeah.
and it would break my heels. And, so how's it changed? I guarantee you, this girl right now gets out there among the cows. This girl will open a gate. I'll get on that tractor with him to bale hay. I'll do whatever I have to because the whole perception of my entire life changed when I went vegan. And when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, according to my friend Dr. Wayne Dyer. He said that, and I never have forgotten it. You know,
A fantastic, man and also absolutely true, and I know you've talked a lot about especially going back to that, looking at the cows in a certain way, and then kind of for the first time, actually seeing the cows, like, actually looking at them and seeing their eyes and their individuality, and especially the mamas and the babies. I know that was one of the pivotal moments for you, and to be honest, that's something that's the reason I'm doing this work now as a journalist for a long, long time. I've done a bunch of stories on I did, like, organic milk versus regular milk, and that's kinda what started getting me out to these farms and getting to look at these animals and how they're treated, especially in a factory farm setting. And it's so horrific, and so many people don't know about it. You'll die when I tell you this. I did that story, and I went back to my news director, and I said, "Well, all the, dairy cows, are female." And he was like, "No, they're not. No, they're not. How could you have only female dairy cows?" And I said, "Well, you have to keep the animal pregnant to produce the milk and the way they do that, they get pregnant, they impregnate them, and then they take the baby away." He was blown away by the fact that all dairy cows were female and that they're producing mammary milk, basically what we and that's what we drink. I don't think people understand that connection. We're so disconnected from our food sources, and the idea that they take these baby cows away from their mamas was a big turning point for you. Tell us about that.
yes. Yes, it was, and it's much different, than a dairy operation. We were a cow-calf operation. So, in the dairy industry, the babies are taken away just about at birth. They hardly even get
Yeah,
a chance to even
awful.
bond at all. Our calves bonded with their mothers for 6 to 8 months, so they were
Ugh.
already imprinted on one another. They had
Ugh,
that
yeah.
deep relationship. And knowing what I know now, seeing the cows that I had way back then and the babies that were born, to watch these families stick together, stay together, love one another in community, knowing that we were messing with that when we were in the cattle ranching business, it just guts me because when those babies when we would round up those babies, it was usually they were between 6 to 8 months old, like I said, and my husband and his partner would pretty much bait them. We had the red trailer. They would open up the gate, and they would put sweet feed inside, and they would put this latch over it, so only the babies could go in, the mamas couldn't. It was made deliberately to trap them, and so they were trusting us, and we betrayed them over and over again. The mamas would be, eating and grazing around the red trailer. The babies would go in, eat the sweet feed. When there was about 6 or 7 of them in there, the gate would close and the trailer would go down the road up Highway 35, and the mamas would chase it, crying to the top of their lungs. All of them, the babies would like just their eyes burst with tears, looking out the slats in the trailer, and those mamas would go up that highway, a mile and a half of highway frontage, crying for their babies till they couldn't anymore, and then they cried for days. And what happened, Peggy, is I began to cry with them, and I wasn't a vegan. I began to grieve. I never had any of my own children, and I began to grieve like a mother must grieve if their babies are stolen from them. I would go out there while they were crying, and I would get on my knees. I would pound the dirt. I would scream into Mother Earth. I would pray to God, and I'd ask for forgiveness. And I wasn't a vegan.
It's I think just human. I think it's just human. I think those images, we've all seen them online. Well, people who are interested in this have seen them online. I think if more people saw them online, they would understand how horrific it is. A gestation period for a cow is the same as a human, a little bit longer, 9 months plus to have their baby. They have a connection like we do with our babies. The idea that you would go in and round up a community of babies and take them away is mind-boggling, and it's just become so institutionalized that people don't think about it anymore. And I can't imagine what I mean, just the videos kill me. There's certain things, in this work that keep you up at night. Those are the videos that keep me up at night. And hearing you describe it makes me emotional because I've seen those videos. They're heartbreaking. They're absolutely heartbreaking. I can't imagine hearing the cries. So you went to your husband, you said, "To hell with this. I'm not taking part in this anymore." What did he say?
Well, that happened about 5 years into our marriage. So, what happened, Peggy, is I started having a spiritual awakening on a Texas cattle ranch. I talk about that in my book a lot because, you know, when I really reflected on what happened for I'm a cattle rancher's wife. I don't have any vegan friends except Rowdy Girl, the calf that I grew to love. So here I am, no, with no vegan friends. I'm not going vegan. I'm not even thinking about going vegan.
Yeah.
Uh, you don't do that if you're on a cattle ranch. You don't want to do that. I mean, you don't even think about it. We are
It's
oppressed. It's a
yeah.
system of oppression. You don't even go there. But what happened before I challenged my husband in the pasture, I had started watching slaughterhouse videos. And a few months up to that day when I challenged my husband, I was trying to figure out how to do the wrong thing the right way. I just searched and searched and searched. I was trying to figure out how to be a humane meat farm. We had started buying humane
Right.
milk, cheese, humane eggs, humane this, humane that. I mean, I was all into this humane idea. And I know now it's a crock of crap, but back then I really thought that we could figure out a way to be humane.
Right,
And
the
so
Temple Grandin way. Like, I think a lot
that
of people
Temple Grandin.
right, try to take solace in that, "Oh, no, this has been thought through, they're killed in a humane fashion." Do you think that's true? Is there a humane way
No, there
to
is no right way to do the wrong thing. It took me losing my mind to figure that out because I stumbled on all of those slaughterhouse videos trying to find the humane pathway. What I found was a horror show. It was
Yeah,
worse than Friday the 13th. It was worse
yeah,
than anything I could have ever stumbled on, and I couldn't stop watching. And I told my husband about it, and he said, "Renee, that's PETA propaganda. Stop watching that stuff." He kept telling me it was PETA propaganda. And the more he told me that, the more I watched, trying to figure out, is that really fake? And so I started like really zeroing in, and I would tell Tommy, this is not fake. This is real. That no, the propaganda is in the ag system. And I
right,
began to see this. And my husband, bless his heart, he would watch the news and he would turn the dial up louder. I would turn all the slaughterhouse footage up louder. I'd be crying, he'd be yelling. And on October 31st, 2014, Halloween, he said, "Renee, you got to get ready. We got to go to my mama's house." She was having that big, Halloween get together we always have every year with all the kids and their costumes and the block party. And so I was trying to pull myself together and I stumbled on Dr. Melanie Joy's dissertation on carnism. Have you heard of?
yes, very good, absolutely, amazing, and puts it in perspective and makes you think about, yeah, the animals you do love and look at them differently, yes.
Well, so I stumbled on that, and they're all eating beef stew. Have you heard
Yeah.
that story?
Yes, yes.
So this is what did it, Peggy.
But tell like, encapsulate it, though, tell us, I wanna
Yeah,
hear your yeah.
yeah. I'm watching this, and they're all sitting around having beef stew, and everybody's loving it. I loved beef stew. My mama made the best. And all of a sudden, the lady, everybody around the room was loving it. And somebody said, "Oh, I love this. What's the recipe?" And the lady of the house says, "Oh, I'm so glad you asked. You start off with a pound of very young golden retriever." Well, at that moment, everybody stopped eating. I stopped. My eyes got big, and nobody could resume eating. What changed? Perception.
Yeah.
Nothing changed except perception. And then as soon as they stopped, the lady goes, "Oh, I'm just kidding. It's really a cow." Well, nobody could resume eating. And I was over there mortified with my husband shouting at me, "Renee, we got to go. We got to go." So I pull myself together, get in the truck, go to his mother's house, walk in the door, all the kids, all the in-laws, the outlaws, a big party. My mother-in-law, Effie, a little genteel lady, God,
Oh,
God rest her
of course
soul.
her name's Effie. Of course it's Effie. Uh-huh.
She comes out, she comes out with a pot of beef
Beef stew.
stew. You cannot
Perfect.
make this
Oh my
up.
gosh. Oh my gosh.
She walks in the living room. Right there, the dining room was adjacent. She sets it down, gets a big ladle, gets a bowl, starts to pour it and give it, "Renee, would you like a bowl?" And I'm like, "I can't eat that." I mean, it was like instant, automatic.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Well, why not, Renee?" I said, "Because it's got floating dead, hacked up animal bodies in it, and I can't eat it." And well, that didn't that
I bet
didn't
that brought the table to a halt.
everybody got really quiet. They looked at me with contorted faces. They looked
Mhm.
at me with their eyes bugged out and their mouth hanging open like, "What did you say?" I had never called beef stew floating dead, hacked up animal bodies. But yeah, that's what it that's what it was in that moment.
Yeah.
And my mother-in-law was like, "Well, Renee, you can pick it out." And I was like, "Nope, there ain't no more picking it out for me." I had seen enough of those videos to know that I could not do this anymore. I slid down the vegan rabbit hole, and from then on, my husband had hell to pay. He was mortified. It wasn't a day or two later, probably a few days later that I confronted him in the pasture and told him that if he took that trailer up the road one more time, I would follow him to the sale barn. I'd buy all those cows back with his credit card. I'd bring him back home. And I said, "You just try me. I will
Yeah.
make you the most embarrassed cattle rancher in Brazoria County. All those good old boys at the Brazoria County Cattlemen's Association will know about you."
He must have thought you had lost your mind.
And I told him, "I've lost my mind." I told him that. And he said, "Well, you sure have." And I said, "Well, I'm glad I lost it because I got a better one now." I lost that
Yeah.
mind and got this one, and that's really what has to happen, Peggy. We have to lose that mind.
You have to change your perspective, and sometimes it's just that flip, and you say the next morning you went out, it was a beautiful misty morning, and you were standing there looking at those cows out there, and you made a resolve with yourself.
Wow, you read that somewhere.
I
Yeah,
did, yes, yeah.
I mean, you nailed it. I walked out there on November 1st. I had talked to my friend Jeannie Westfall. I got my first vegan friend,
Oh, good.
that evening. She's in Oregon. And I walked out there and it was foggy, and I knew I was walking on sacred ground. Something in me knew I was on sacred ground. I looked out at those cows and I saw the sanctuary. I no longer saw a cattle ranch, and something in me relaxed really
Mm.
deep. Something in me was like it was like a big spiritual sigh.
Where you just felt at peace with this new path, that
Yeah, I
you've
didn't
been
know
on the
how
wrong
it was
path.
gonna
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know how it was gonna unfold, but I knew I had made the right decision.
So what'd you do before we get into what'd you do with all those cows then? So you had how many at the time, like 75, or how many did you
Oh,
have
no,
out
no,
there?
no, no, we have 70 now, but at the
Okay,
time, we only had, like, 29 or 30. And
okay.
they were pregnant, a lot of them were pregnant, and getting pregnant because we had a cow-calf operation. So, my husband's cattle ranch was small because he worked at Dow. He had been there 40 years, and he was gonna make this his little retirement asset, and so we didn't have a large one. He had to be able to manage it, but still, 30 cows, all pregnant, most of them, and getting pregnant. So what I did was, at that point in time, I just pretty much told him, I mean, I don't like to use the word because it starts with a C, blocked. I blocked him. I told him. It's a Texas thing, right? I to
Yeah.
I told him, I said, you can't do not even think about taking those cows out of here." I slept with one eye open. I
Mm.
went out and slept with the cows. I mean, I lived with the cows during the day. I took my guitar, I took my food, I took my little quilt, and I went out and I lived with the cows during the day because I couldn't stand being at home. I did that for, God, over a month.
Oh,
And,
wow.
it was very hard. We couldn't get rid of the cows, and I didn't wanna get rid of the cows, and it was
And
a
that's how you
little.
found your rowdy girl, right? Is that how you found your girl? You found, like, your one cow that you really bonded with, who's sort of become your whole moniker.
No, she came to be before I ever went vegan.
Mm.
Rowdy girl, that's what got us started. What got us started in all this was when I was a cattle rancher's wife. Before I got involved in cattle ranching, Tommy came home one day and he said, this was like in 2009, 2010. He said, "Renee, there's these babies up the road, these baby calves, and they need a mama. They're infants. They don't have a mama." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And yeah, he said, "Yeah, you want to go look at them?" And I did. And when I was looking at him, this little black calf, 4 or 5 weeks old, comes jumping out with a little heart on her head, solid black with a heart. And I said, "Well, aren't you a little rowdy girl?" And I bought her, and I bought this other one that died very young, Bobo.
Mm.
But Rowdy Girl thrived, and that's what got me connected to all the cows, Peggy, before I ever went vegan, was through Rowdy Girl. It took about 5 years, with her. When I started bottle feeding her, I've always had a real soft spot for animals, but I never, I let myself have the soft spot for animals I eat, and
Mm.
so it never occurred to me to be mindful of the fact that cows have families. But when I
Mhm.
was bottle feeding Rowdy Girl, I was extremely mindful of that, and my heart opened to the herd. My heart saw them individually through her, and I started naming them one by one,
Mm.
and I would come home and tell my husband their names, and he would shout at me to stop naming the cows because you can't sell cows you know.
Right, which when you get connected like that. But I think what you're talking about right now is really a connection, and what he's saying is you can't really operate that way without disconnection, and I feel like that is where most of us and our food sources are, disconnected from the reality that these are mammals just like us that have families and best friends, and when one of them dies or gets hurt, they mourn. They have a central nervous system just like we do. Why do you think that is? Like, when you look at the industry right now and all the research and front row seat that you have now coming to the other side, why is it? Where's the disconnect coming from, in your opinion?
Well, it's clear to me that the disconnect comes from all the millions, maybe even a billion or more of the power that animal ag has to market, all the lobbying power animal ag has. I mean, when you look at what's happening to some of these plant-based food companies right now, it's because the narrative that's being shoved out and pushed out, is that plant-based meats are bad for you, which is totally false. It's way better, way, way better than, pus and blood and feces that's in, most of the meat, cheese, and eggs and dairy that we eat. I mean, and they certainly don't, promote that. Um, but
Right.
they've got so much money. They got so much power. They've got, not only money in all these animal ag systems and associations, but also the lobbying power.
The lobbying power, especially in terms of ag-gag laws, where if you want to go in and show this, and I know this as a journalist, where I would try to get on some of these farms and show people what these animals like. They don't live on farms. They never leave the barn. They are stuck in a stall or stuck standing in their own waste, and then we wonder why we have these E. coli outbreaks that kill people. But they are so powerful. You could get arrested and go to jail. In fact, there are people that are, if you go in and just try to show people where their food sources are coming from. So I think that's a huge problem. How was the reaction to you? Did you get pushback, and did your husband get pushback? Because I know vegan's a dirty word, especially in Texas. You go to Texas and you say the word vegan, it's like that, it's almost a citation. How do you deal with that when people judge you?
Well, it's been interesting. You know, are you from Texas?
No, my husband is, and we've got, yeah, kids that go there, but I'm no, I'm from Seattle, actually.
Okay. Well, Texas is interesting. Texas is got a pretty big vegan footprint now.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
yeah, Austin, Dallas, San Antonio, Houston. There's a lot of just all vegan restaurants now. But the problem is Texas is a really big state, and so there's a lot. We got a lot of cattle ranches. Here in Texas, a ton of them, and chicken farms and all that. And I live right slap dab in the middle of cattle country. We moved from Angleton because we got flooded 3 times to near Austin. We're an hour from Austin on 147 acres here, just surrounded by cattle ranches and chicken farms. But when we first went vegan, some of the cattle ranchers were, like just real snarky towards my husband, like in the feed store, or at church. Uh, my husband was an elder in the Presbyterian church at the time. He got a lot of kind of pushback there, and then he would go to the like I said he would go to the feed store, and I remember somebody saying to him they ought to pull your ag exemption, that kind of thing. But the other and his best friend Robert, who actually introduced Tommy and I, several years ago. He's gone now too, God rest his soul. But Robert introduced us. That's Tommy's partner at the time, and he disowned Tommy. He said, "I can't get it. I can't abide all that vegan stuff."
Oh, just, like, ended the friendship.
Yeah, until he got stage 4 cancer and was dying, and he needed Tommy, and at the end of the day, Robert even went plant-based trying to save himself from that stage 4 cancer, and Tommy was by his side, the whole time.
Which a lot of doctors will say that if you have any, history of cancer in your family, make sure you eat a plant-based diet. That's I'm not it's not it's out there. People know this.
Why would you wanna be eat flesh with blood and guts and feces and urine and
And
death
hormones,
and death and suffering and hormones and whatever else instead of plants? I mean,
and antibiotics and all this stuff. Okay, so what do you say, especially when people, because I came across this a lot when I was doing these stories, and especially when I first met my husband, who on our first date, he ordered big steak, and he's raised 4 boys, and they're all meat eating. Now 2 of them aren't, but he would order double burgers with bacon, et cetera, et cetera. He completely stopped eating meat. He's from Illinois and then moved to Texas, so big Midwestern attitude. His mom is furious with me. He's like a vegetarian now. But anyway, how do you answer the question? Because he used to say to me when I go cover one of these stories, "I don't wanna know. Just when you get home, I don't wanna know. Don't tell me." And I wouldn't, because people you can't shame people into changing what they eat, and people don't want to change their behaviors. They're scared of what they know it's bad. They don't wanna know about it because they enjoy their cheeseburger or their steak. So what do you say to people who say, "I don't wanna know. Don't tell me."
oh god, it happens all the time.
Yep.
When somebody set me back, I was just at a conference. It was the Animal Vegan Advocacy Summit over in LA. I was there for 5 days, and I met a cattle rancher there that is transitioning his farm, his chicken farm. He's got a cattle ranch. They're transitioning to lettuce, and, we had a long talk. He, is also a preacher, teaches Sunday school, and is not a vegan. And, I said to him, "Have you ever watched slaughterhouse videos, Bill?" He was like, "No, I don't have a reason to watch all that." I said, "Well, watch it." When I tell people that say, I don't wanna, you know, I don't wanna know, I'm like, "Well, watch some slaughterhouse videos. Just
Yeah.
watch some." "No, I don't wanna look at that." So you can look at the death and you can eat the death and suffering, but you can't look at it. My main thing is to watch. I recommended he watch Christspiracy, and he
Mm.
watched Christspiracy.
Oh,
He
wow.
texted me, like, day before yesterday, and he said, "Renee, I don't know whether to thank you or just tell you how shocked I am." Or he was like, "I don't know whether to thank you or not." It does keep me up. I can't watch it like I used to. I used to
Yeah.
watch them all the time in the beginning. I can't anymore. I scroll by, and some accounts I have to unfollow because
Yeah.
I am so sensitive to I don't need to keep watching it, but people like Bill, people, that don't wanna watch, that don't wanna know what they're eating, they need to watch. That's why we've gotta keep creating that kinda content, in my opinion, is that people, if somebody was, and, well, let me just, we are being farmed. According to my friend Dr. Sailesh Rao, he is the founder of Climate Healers. He says that humans are being farmed. And I believe we are. We're being farmed, to eat all this fast food. We're being farmed to eat processed foods out the kazoo. We're being farmed to, to take all these pharmaceuticals for problems that are being caused because of what we're eating. We're being farmed to have to be on the other end of all these procedures to correct problems that happen
All
as a
these
result.
problems.
All of this. So we're being
It's all
farmed.
and it's starting with diet. I mean, it's really starting with diet. So, considering our food, I mean, I think it's safe to say our food sources are making us sick, and there are ag-gag laws preventing us from knowing it all, what we're eating, how it's farmed, why it's making us sick. You can't pump up a chicken, pump up a cow, turn it around, feed it to a human being, and not have problems like this. And you can't confine the animals in the way that we confine them so that we can mass produce this type of meat. Is there something you think that makes people wake up to this other than the slaughterhouse videos? Is there any other awakening that you see people grabbing onto?
Yeah, I think health.
Mm.
Health is a big one. That's what triggered my husband finally. Now, to be fair, I did shame him. I don't
That's what we
recommend
do.
it. I really don't recommend it. But I was, in fact, we have a T-shirt that says, "Veganism was shoved down my throat. I chewed it up and I liked it." And yeah, we only sell it like one time a year, and we're going to put it out for next month. But that's what happened to Tommy. But the reason why he finally decided to try veganism is because he saw Forks Over Knives, the
Mm,
documentary,
great documentary.
and he was really piqued up his interest with T. Colin Campbell and the China study on heart disease because his father had died of a massive heart attack at the age of 62. And
Hmm.
so, a lot of people get in the door of veganism through their health, and, a lot of people try it. I mean, that's what happened to Tommy's, partner, Robert. He got in too late. Stage 4 cancer. It was in his bones. It was in his brain. It was too late. And so a lot of people do. A lot of people get in through the environmental angle.
Mhm.
I think Kip Anderson has done a remarkable job of showing the environmental impacts of animal agriculture in the documentary Cowspiracy. I think others in the movement have done a remarkable job at creating documentaries to spotlight the devastating impact of animal agriculture on our oceans, on our wildlife, on our the everything, the entire
Yeah.
Amazon. I mean, look at what's happening to our planet because of animal agriculture, and people just want to turn a blind eye. So I think that, and then the last frontier is, of course, ethics. For somebody to finally see the ethics, documentaries like Christspiracy are are perfect if you want to really feel deep the ethics. And also our documentary Rowdy Girl, which isn't being streamed yet. It will be soon, but it's playing at a theater near you pretty much. Um, but that documentary is only 72 minutes long. There's no slaughterhouse footage in it, and it is really, really good at showing people how to make the connection too.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. How, as we wrap things I can't wait to see it, and I agree with you on all of those fronts. It's we are not in a place where people get to ignore it. I marvel at the lack of, people don't have any thought about what they're eating or using or the waste or the effects of they have bacon in the morning and a burger at lunch and a steak at dinner, and it's killing their bodies, the environment, it's hurting the animals. It's just across the board. It's something people need to look at and make some smarter choices. Um, you have completely changed your life, turned it around. Look at the work that you're doing now. From a personal perspective, how do you feel when you wake up every day and you have conversations like this and you're meeting all these people and you're a major voice in this area of animal rights, animal advocacy, but also environmentalism and health? How do you feel about how this has evolved for you?
I feel more empowered, more dedicated, more committed every single day. My mission, my motive is for the animals I see walking across my window right now. My reason for doing this is to end animal suffering, to liberate animals from, these horrific conditions that humanity has put them in. This was never inspired by God. And so every morning I wake up determined to uncover all the messaging that tells humans it's okay to eat animals. I wake up more determined to have conversations with people that are doing the same thing, to meet up with people that are doing the same thing, so that together we can create the coalition and the collaborations we need to end this. I wake up more empowered every day. I pray a lot. I am a very spiritual girl. I do believe that I'm here on a mission for a reason, and I wake up willing every day.
What conference do you think is worth your time? Because there's one coming up in Sonoma, but we all have limited time. The one you mentioned in LA, which conferences do you feel like are worth your time that you've been to?
Well, the AVA Summit, the Animal Vegan Advocacy Summit, is not only in the United States. It's going to be in Africa this year. It's going to be in India. It's all over. It's scheduled. Also, they're talking about taking it to Canada, to Europe. I mean, the AVA Summit. It
Okay,
is. If ever there was a conference anybody needs to go to, look up AVA, AVA Summit,
got it.
and tell them Rowdy Girl sent you, by golly. I've been 4 years in a row, and I have watched this conference coalesce, and they're becoming the force that we need to become in order to come head to head with animal agriculture.
Thank God.
Animal ag reps go to this conference.
Oh, good. Okay, because they wanna see what the angles are and how they can
That's
undo
right.
them and how they can prevent them from happening. What would you say to people who are watching this or listening to it for the first time and thinking, "Oh, man, I don't wanna what can I do?" Because it can be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming. So what's something that you could tell people to do to take action or start small?
Okay, if somebody's watching right now and they want to start small, I would take a deep breath, and get on and say a quick prayer or whatever you do. Maybe you don't pray, maybe you meditate, maybe you visualize. I don't know what you do, but do something to like stop your thinking for a minute and then ask, what do I need to do next? Ask a higher power, something greater than you. And you're going to get the answer because, see, the answer is inside all of us. We were all born vegan. None of us was born to eat babies, to eat none of us was born as a child. It's when we have a baby chick in this hand, and a cookie in this hand, we would never, grab the little baby chicken and tear its head off. We'd go for that little cookie, you know. Uh, we wouldn't do that. So listen to that silent place in you.
What
I
do
can
I need
tell
to
you
do
everything,
next?
huh?
Well, I love that. What do I need to do next?
Yeah, it's get
Yeah,
quiet. Get
yeah.
quiet. Get quiet. Go deep within and ask the spark of you that brought you here. Do you think that when you leave this earth and wherever you go, you're going to be able to go buy a barbecue sandwich or go to a slaughterhouse and kill an animal? This is man-made bull hockey.
I agree. I don't know what bull hockey is, but I agree with you. It is bull hockey. It is total bull hockey, and it's killing us. It's killing our planet. It's hurting everyone. It is bull hockey. I'm
And
with
it's
you.
great, but I made up a new word. I didn't want to say what I normally would say. But, it's really, I mean, and think of who it's really hurting.
Yeah. Us.
You. It's hurting you. It's hurting your babies.
Yeah, I
Your
agree.
kids that you're raising to eat babies. I mean, when you think of all the animals that are slaughtered, they're babies. They never get to live out their full potential. We're eating babies. You know, if I had to really look at it, is this God inspired or the devil? I mean, good Lord, I think we've been hoodwinked.
No, I think it is a slice of hell. Anyone that's looking at those videos or looking at any of it is an absolute slice of hell. And I do think if people would just open their eyes and just take a look at it, it would change behaviors. But you are out there changing behaviors with your positivity, your sass, your fabulous accent. It makes me wish I was born in Texas having that accent. It's beautiful. And I so appreciate the work you're doing because I know you are taking your time and you're pounding the pavement every day, getting this message out and saying it in a way that really makes people listen and wake up because who's got the experience that you have? And your experience and your expertise is so valuable. So thank you so much for making time for us today because now we know a lot more than we did before. So thank you so much, Renee.
Thank
You're the
you, Peggy.
best.
It's been a real pleasure.
It's been so fun talking to you. I'm going to see you at that conference. I'm going to go to that.
Oh, you
Yeah,
are?
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna go because we've got a bunch all over the place. That's why I'm like, I can't go to all these. I got to find out what the best one is. So I'm so glad you've been out there going. So that's good
You
to
tell
know.
them I sent you.
I will. I will.
Well, thank you so much. I wish all my interviews was as energetic as you.
Oh, thank you, Renee. Obviously, you're listening to this show because you do want to know it all. And sometimes knowing it all can be a little hard. The information is tough to share. So let's leave you with something a little bit lighter. On a lighter note, these are some beautiful stories that we wanted to share with you. This video from the Dodo, we just love the work that they do. This is Charlotte and Valentino. Imagine being a dairy cow and just having your babies constantly taken away from you. Not this time, not when little Valentino shows up. And you can see how it just turns this mama cow, turns her around. It's a beautiful story. Check it out. And to see all the notes and the backstory about Charlotte and her little boy, Valentino, go to the show notes. You'll see the link there and check it out. I'm Peggy Bunker, and as far as this podcast goes, that's all there is to know today. If you liked what you heard, please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you really liked what you heard, please leave us a rating and a review. Know It All is a production of Peggy Bunker Media. Editing, producing, and recording is done by the team at Resonate Recordings. I'm Peggy Bunker, and now you know it all.